All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about something that is honestly one of the most mind-blowing frontiers in science right now. This hidden, powerful conversation that's constantly happening between your gut and your brain. You know that phrase, right? I've got a gut feeling about this. We say it all the time. It's that little nudge, that intuition that tells you something's up. But what if it's not just a saying? What if it's real? Like, biologically real? Well, it turns out the latest science is showing us that it is so much more than just a phrase. There's a real, physical, chemical connection going on. And the implications of this are huge. We're talking about everything from your day-to-day mood to your long-term mental health. So what we're really digging into here is something called the gut-brain axis. Okay, just picture a superhighway, a two-way street with information zipping back and forth nonstop. Your brain sends messages down to your gut. No surprise there. But here's the kicker, and this is the really important part. Your gut and all those trillions of little critters living inside it are talking right back to your brain. All the time. Okay, so to really get this, we have to kind of forget about the brain in our heads for a second, because it turns out we've got another one. Seriously, there's this incredibly complex web of neurons all through our gut, and it's so sophisticated that scientists have literally nicknamed it our second brain. Just look at this number. Over 90%. Get this, that's the amount of serotonin in your body, you know, the happy chemical that helps regulate your mood, that is made in your gut, not your brain. Let that sink in, your gut. I mean, that one fact alone should tell you something absolutely wild is going on down there. And the reason why is this thing called the enteric nervous system, or ENS for short. It's basically this mesh, this web of nerves woven all through your digestive tract. And what's crazy is that it can work on its own, completely independent of the brain in your skull. It's using the exact same chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, the works. So yeah, you can see why they call it the second brain. It really is. All right, so we've got two brains, cool, but the plot thickens. Because there's another major player in this story, a massive one. We're talking about a whole civilization, a bustling ecosystem of tiny organisms living inside you as we speak. 100 trillion. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that number. That's how many microbes are estimated to be in your gut. And here's a fun fact to put it in perspective for you. You actually have about 10 times more microbial cells than human cells in your body. So, you know, in a way, we're more microbe than human. Wild, right? And look, these little guys aren't just freeloading. They're not just passengers along for the ride. They are hard at work. They're like a tiny internal workforce. They help us break down our food. They create essential vitamins that our own bodies can't make. They produce all these amazing compounds. And they're our first line of defense against nasty bugs. Their collective genetic playbook is actually 100 times bigger than our own. It's like having a whole second genome that we've been evolving with for millennia. Okay, so let's recap. We've got a second brain in the gut. We've got 100 trillion microbes living there. The big question is, how in the world does all of that connect how we feel to our mood, our mental state? Well, this is where things get really interesting. So, researchers started looking into this, and what they found is pretty stunning. When they looked at the gut microbes of people with major depressive disorder or bipolar disorder, they saw a completely different picture compared to healthy people. Like a signature difference. And it wasn't just random chaos. These changes were directly tied to things like inflammation and how the body processes energy. Okay, I know this chart looks like a crazy science project, but stick with me, it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Think of it like a family tree for bacteria. It's showing us which specific types of microbes are different in people with mood disorders. The red bits are for major depression, the green bits are for bipolar. Don't worry about the names, what's important is the pattern we're about to see. And here it is, the big reveal. The pattern is crystal clear. In both conditions, we see a drop in the good guys, the helpful bacteria that fight inflammation. And at the very same time, we see a rise in the bad guys, the troublemakers that cause inflammation. So it's a double whammy. The peacekeepers are disappearing, and the agitators are taking over. So when you see a pattern that clear, it leads to a really exciting question, right? If a messed up gut ecosystem is part of the problem, can we fix it? Could we actually hack our own microbiome to make our minds healthier? And that question brings us to a therapy that is, well, it's groundbreaking, but it also sounds a little weird at first. It's called a fecal microbiota transplant, or FMT. But the idea behind it is actually genius in its simplicity. You just take a healthy gut ecosystem from a donor and give it to someone whose system is out of whack. It's like hitting the reset button. The way it works is pretty straightforward. First, you basically weed the garden by clearing out the patient's existing unbalanced microbes. Then you plant new seeds by introducing the healthy sample from the donor. The goal is for this new, healthy community to take root, flourish, and bring the whole system back into balance. And for some things, like the nasty infection C. diff, FMTs have been a miracle cure. So it seems like we found the silver bullet, right? Problem solved. But not so fast. Like any great story, there's a plot twist. It turns out this new frontier is a lot trickier than we thought. This quote from a top researcher really hits the nail on the head. He's basically saying, whoa, hold on a second. Maybe we've been a little too enthusiastic. It's a wake-up call that we've been treating the entire gut like it's one big uniform bucket, and it's just not. Because what researchers found is that when you put these microbes in the wrong place, they do something straight out of science fiction. They don't just die off, they start changing the environment around them. They manipulate the chemistry to make it feel like home. They literally terraform. So here's the problem in a nutshell. The gut isn't one big city. It's a series of distinct neighborhoods. The microbes that live happily in your colon are totally different from the ones that belong in your small intestine. But a standard FMT basically takes a busload of residents from the colon and drops them off all over the place. And when these colon native end up in the small intestine, they start redecorating, changing the whole local chemistry. And that can cause all sorts of problems we never intended. But you know what? This problem is actually a good thing. It's not a dead end, it's a course correction. It's forcing scientists to get way more precise, to really respect the incredible complexity of this world inside us. And that brings us to the next evolution, the proposed solution, moving from FMT to something called OMT, or omnimicrobial transplant. The difference is huge. Instead of just grabbing microbes from one neighborhood, the colon, the idea with OMT is to collect samples from all the different neighborhoods. We're not just trying to reboot the system anymore, we're trying to do a full, precise, regionally correct restoration. I mean, this is a massive shift in thinking. It's the difference between using a sledgehammer and using a scalpel. We're moving from a blunt instrument to this idea of ecological restoration. The new goal is simple but powerful. Put the right microbes back in exactly the right zip code and restore the whole landscape of the gut with total precision. And that brings us right back to where we started. We began with a simple gut feeling, and now we're talking about precision microbiome engineering. Look, this science is still really new, but the clues are undeniable. And as we get better and better at tending to this amazing garden inside of us, you just have to wonder, could the future of mental health have been hiding in our gut this whole time?